I am here to do another reading this week. I'm working a little bit on some reflections that I hope to have ready to share maybe next week or in a week or two. But until then, I'm just going to keep trying out and seeing how this calling process goes for my subscribers and watchers and those who find me through the algorithms. Um, so far, I've really been surprised and impressed by how these things are reaching people that I never would have expected. And so I probably know most of my subscribers in person right now, so I get feedback, and that's really helpful. But if I don't know you in person and you can't give me feedback that way, please tell me in the comments if this is reaching you. I want to know how it's working. So today we're going to do someone has a question out there, and I'm calling on our ancestors, our guides, and the spirit of the elements to bring us a message that will help them in that, um, meet that question with their soul, help them to put themselves in the place that they need to be to live in that moment. And the way I always have been doing this since I started working with a deck for the I Ching, which is not um, the way I first learned how to do castings, is I do the spread like this. And I don't look, I just magnetically feel where I'm drawn. So the first card I feel here is 55, Richness Waning. This one is the sun beneath fire. So it's a very hot hexagram. Hold high expectations of yourself. Your light is an inspiration. Perhaps you have been hiding from a storm, but now is the time to shine, as the sun at noon. The storm has moved on just enough to bring you the awareness and clarity you need to judge this situation. However, as always, this light will wane and the sun will set. That's number 55. Let's see what that's transitioning into. Draw one more card here. There's different ways to think about this two hexagram system. So I was talking to somebody about it this week, and there's many ways to generate hexagrams, and then those different methods have probabilities that give you different numbers of changing lines. And you can get a lot of changing lines when you're doing the card method. It seems to be a little more probable that way. And then how you look at those two hexagrams, it can be a sort of present future movement, a movement in time, your present hexagram or your subject hexagram and your future hexagram. But it could also be just seen as a balancing force. That second hexagram, or that those lines are giving you indicators as to how to balance your energy. And that's an interesting perspective that I've been sort of thinking through and playing with a little bit. And so I don't know, see if something comes to me. Oh, that light as I read this. My habits are to think of these things in terms of time. So my second hexagram is here. Oh, 17 following. Interesting enough, this will be my next reflection. I just started reflecting personally on this hexagram for my next kind of conceptual philosophical video. This one is part of a set I'm looking at. 17 following has fire beneath water. Persistence in accordance with the rhythms of nature's clock. The sun has set, and it is time to take a rest in peaceful knowing that you have done the work. You've done the work for today. Success can be found in giving up yourself freely to the ways of night and day. So something I've kind of learned about this particular hexagram so far in my reflections is following is about examining what it is that you are following. And kind of examining if you're following something that is kind of a default or an illness in our culture, sort of expectations of others or your parents, Or are you following nature, what is natural and true? Um, and so that is where the peaceful knowing comes from, is that you're being aware of and decisive about, intentional about what it is that you are following. And then richness waning. It's interesting that both of these have an element of fire in them, right? And here it's sort of the fire is the storm. Um, and storms are unavoidable. They are, they can be destructive or catastrophic or frightening. But they also kind of they part eventually. They're very temporary. They are not a permanent or even something that you can create, right? Necessarily. This is a natural, these both have to do with sort of this natural, many of the changes in the book have to do with sort of natural wanes and ebbs and flows and comings and goings, right? It's the book of changes. But let's look for just a moment at what changing lines we're going to get with these particular hexagrams and maybe what advice we have emanating from looking at that aspect. So the changing lines we're going to have here are, it looks like line 3 and line 5 are the changing lines. And we are still sitting in this richness waning as our present hexagram, if you want to look at it that way. Um, So there's some other uh, titles for this besides richness waning, which is one that I have pulled probably from the Magician's I Ching, but many other translations we have luxuriant, zenith, fullness, abundance. Um, and so I think those are interesting words that seem to have a sort of different connotation than richness waning. There is um, an ex a peak having reached, perhaps the storm having reached its greatest point of downpour, um, and then beginning to part. So that zenith aspect, sort of huge release, um, sort of aspect. Some of the descriptions or judgments we have here are take advantage of the sun at noon. This idea of this the storm is parting, but you just have a few moments from noon to the end of day of this light in the parting clouds or that dissipation of the storm to accomplish something before the sun sets. I would say that's sort of there's a brief moment of opportunity that is here. So it says the Junzi or the superior man decides lawsuits, um, carries out verdicts with exactness. There is this deliberating aspect that must happen in this brief moment right here. Do not grieve when the truth hurts. A loss of illusion is a gain in awareness. That is a very um, interesting thing to think about with the idea of that storm and how dark and murky it can be, but then it's begun to kind of part. Want to read line 3 for us? The underbrush is of such abundance that small stars can even be seen at noon. He breaks his right arm, no blame. That's very interesting. This storm has brought so much cloud cover or darkness to it. Um, Somehow that you can see stars at noon. That's a very interesting image. And that kind of brings to awareness the idea of the shadow and how the shadows show us things, right? They bring us points of light and awareness whenever we face them. Um, that's an interesting line 3. And then I said line 5 was our other changing line. I'd also say if I'm looking at these lines as a past line and a present line, that is line 3 is really that point of awareness that the storm brought clarity or insight or something to us. And right now we're probably more in this line 5 part. Blessings and fame draw near. The variegated beauty of the sky after a storm now appears. Blessings and fame are one. Good fortune. There comes a pattern, celebratory and uplifting, auspicious, bringing brilliance there is praise. So that is really this parting and shining moment where the storm has passed and the sun is shining. So you have been surrounded by this sort of enlightenment, this point of clarity that has come to you, and you're able to kind of gather your wits and take action in this time you have between noon and the end of day when it's too dark, and you need to rest. And that's a very interesting reinforcement that comes from following nature's clock and the rhythms and kind of knowing you have done that task for the day so that you can sleep and rest, that comes with this one here. So that following aspect. That's what I have for you. I get the sense that you have great work to do. Um, and blessed be in that work today.